This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
And I'm Nancy Richards.
We have a very special guest today from St. John's Episcopal Church here on Staten Island, Father Hank Tuell. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here with
Uh,
you guys.
Excellent.
So we've invited Father Hank on today because we wanted to discuss, in addition to we've been talking a lot about ICE on Staten Island, and we um, had a young woman from the Staten Island community who was detained, and we had a rally in front of Nicola Maniotakis' office a few weeks ago, and Father Hank is directly involved in assisting her while she was being not deported, detained.
And so, Father Hank, just tell us a little bit about your background here on Staten Island, what your community advocacy has been like, your role in assisting migrants over the years, and just your experiences in doing all of that.
Sure. I came to Staten Island in January of 2021. I moved here to St. John's and became the priest here. Um, as time has kind of changed and our political climate has gotten a little bit anti-immigrant, I would say. We, as a diocese, our Episcopal diocese, decided to declare ourselves a sanctuary diocese. We believe that we should be present and a support system and a welcoming home and a sanctuary place for everyone. And that includes our immigrant neighbors here in New York City. When the shelters opened in Travis, for the family shelters, the Episcopal Church on Staten Island decided that we wanted to be a part of supporting those new neighbors here on Staten Island. The Episcopal churches gathered together, donated money, and we helped to support the doctors who were taking care of the families there, and we provided the medication, the over-the-counter medication to support those families. We also did some toy drives and other ways and to help them and make them feel welcome. St. John's in January 2024 had been in conversation with the city to provide one of the emergency migrant shelters that the city was looking to house in houses of worship. So we had entered into conversation about the possibility of doing that. And when we announced that at our annual meeting, of course, it caused kind of an uproar. We knew there would be some pushback, but we were threatened to be sued by politicians on both sides of the aisle that represent Staten Island, including both from city council all the way to our congresswoman, who threatened to sue us for looking at operating a emergency shelter for the city. We did not move forward with that. After I received some death threats, then we decided that that was not a risk we were willing to take at that time. So we looked at other ways that we could help. I am on the diocesan sanctuary committee, and we look at ways that we can help. We have created a legal fund to help provide legal services across our diocese and to do other things and to support some connections with different organizations that we can try to help with. We're active in Know Your Rights trainings and other ways to support and engage our community members here. We believe that everyone has a right to a fair and legal process in our system. And we do not believe that that is occurring at this time. And the system is being created and modified to make this an impossible journey for people trying to seek asylum. People present themselves to our borders or come to us and seek asylum because returning home is a risk of murder, a risk of rape, risk of lots of different things. And we, as members of the developed world who signed on to the Geneva Convention, must offer that honest legal process for people to come and do this. And we are fighting, our system is fighting against following the basic rules of humanity and the laws that we agree to follow here in this country right now.
Well, I just want to just reflect on the community from last year in your experience with uh, when you were proposing to be a host of the shelter to now. So, because nationally, I would say a lot of folks, even in blue cities, thought that the Biden administration dropped the ball as it relates to immigration and the border and the migrant crisis. And so that was in part what how we got to the current place that we're in. But now we're starting to see people say, "Well, yes, we want a safe and orderly border and all that, but not like this." Like, have you noticed a shift in the community around you towards a more compassionate uh, stance towards the migrant population?
Most likely.
I'm not necessarily talking about the politicians, but more just the people in the community.
I hear from people a lot, um, especially as we highlight a lot of the people. They're picking up around 3,000 people a day, is where we're kind of hitting at. There's not those people are not criminals. Some of them are, right, but the majority of them are not criminals. They are here and trying to follow a legal process that we have set forth, and they're still being detained and bond refused, or unable to muster the resources in order to get bond. And a lot of people, that I've talked to are like, well, that's not what we thought was going to happen. We thought it was criminals they were going after, um, not not young people that have followed the process and done what they were supposed to do.
And I believe that when I hear this, I hear it a lot, especially on Staten Island, when people are like, well, as long as they're coming in the right way, they're not coming in the right way. And um, one of the things that I think people are beginning to learn that a lot of people seeking asylum were doing it the right way, that they were following um, their they came in, they sought asylum, they were making appointments, they were keeping up with their appointments, even with stories of people who have been here 20 years, who are being picked up on something that might be something minor, like they missed an appointment maybe years ago that they never received notification from due to a technical glitch, or maybe they moved and didn't get the new information. Um, but people are beginning to learn that, yeah, that these are not criminals. And so do you find that you're having more people become more sympathetic because they're learning that these are people who are doing things correctly, and they're they're being detained for wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are starting to see the stories, and to read the articles and see that these people that are being picked up have followed the rules. They presented, they asked for asylum, they've gone to their appointments, and they're still being detained, even when they're following all of the rules, and they're doing what we've asked them to do. Um, and we can't. They presented the border in 2020 and followed the rules then. Because the rules might be different or we want something different now, doesn't mean we can go back and change what they did. They did what they were supposed to do at the time that they did it.
Like, look at people who are coming from Venezuela. Um, I I teach, and I have students from Venezuela, and I've heard some of their horror stories just getting here, number one. Number two, they were invited by the past administration, and then to have this administration just flip the policy, that, how is that humane. And then, like, when I think about, there's a large community of people from Venezuela and Haiti, that I teach. And, you know, if we know anything about Haiti, we know what's going on there and what are they going to return to? Um, why are these people being now asked to go back after they were allowed to come here in the first place? I find things like that outrageous and inhumane. Um, and what are people, what do you find people are doing to help? I know that uh, I've attended a Know Your Rights seminar, so I know, things that I can personally do and not do, so I don't feel so helpless. Um, do you find more people are looking to get involved that way or donate money or maybe put pressure on their local politicians?
I do. I see a growing movement, and not just, and crossing political lines of people that don't see this current climate as humane. And at the end of the day, we go to our churches, our synagogues, and our mosques, and we talk about what it means to be people of faith or people of just a human core to who we
Yeah.
are. And these policies and procedures are not following that. You know, we have people that leave everything they have and their family and travel thousands of miles by foot to come to this country. People don't do that for a better opportunity. They do that because they're afraid for their lives, and because they can no longer live safely in their communities. And so um,
Oh.
I see a growing, I see a growing willingness to participate, and a growing willingness to speak up. And this isn't what people want, right? They want a safer world, and they want things to run according to rules and laws, but this isn't it, and this isn't what that they were envisioning. And so I do see a change in people. Well,
Well, people have got involved by going to, we had a rally for Sarah. So do we want to talk about, let's talk about Sarah and, a lot of us gathered in support of her when she was picked up. Can you tell us about her story?
Sarah is a young lady on that graduated from Port Richmond High School, and she is an 18-year-old um, young lady that graduated high school with honors after coming to the United States at 15 years old. Um, and there was a rally held outside of Maliotakis's office for Sarah, and that was very much orchestrated by the teachers and people that she had encountered that she touched them. She is a young lady who has dreams of being a productive American, that wants to prove to the world that she makes a difference and that she can be an asset to our country. And so the impact that she had, definitely sunk in and struck a chord with a lot of people, about who a lot of these immigrants are, and the value that they add to our country. That they are not criminals coming, but people who are going to add to our country and make us a better place.
Well, and just talk about the conditions that Sarah faced in detention. I know I did see a press conference where she spoke with, and you were in attendance, but also other faith leaders were there as well. She talked a little bit about the conditions that she faced while she was in ICE detention for 35 days. So, what were the specifics of the conditions she was under?
She was detained, and she was placed at Delaney Hall in New Jersey, and a habeas petition was filed, and the judge had ordered that she not be moved. She was moved, and she was moved four times to four different facilities. There's three Jersey and three other locations in 3 days.
Well,
So
just to be clear, the administration defied that court order. Not
um, I, I can't say that they defied it. The court order was made and she was transferred the next day. So were they aware of it? I can't answer that question, right? So I can only say that the order was placed and she was moved the following day. Um, the order was granted and she was moved the following day, and so she was moved and was placed in a ICE facility and then moved to a county jail and then another ICE facility.
Can I
Um,
ask? She was picked up in a work raid, like the ICE came in and kind of did a sweep. It wasn't just particularly targeted at her. It was how many people?
I believe there was 47 people picked
And
up in the
what
raid.
did they give a reason why they uh, went to that facility?
I don't have the details
Okay.
on why they went to that facility, but she was just one of numerous people that day that was
And
picked up and detained.
call her, did she call her a friend? Like how did, when she was picked up, was she able to call somebody and then, or did somebody know about this? Because I've been hearing things where people haven't been able to make contact with anyone and people don't know where they are. Like they haven't been able to make phone calls and contact people, which is part of due process. You're entitled to a phone call.
Yeah, and there's some in order to add money to somebody's card so they can make a phone call, you have to have their A number. So if you don't have their A number, you can't add money to their call for them to be able to call out of detention. So that is causing issues. But her family was notified, and so then they began trying to seek assistance.
So her family did the outreach for her. Okay,
And
good.
so just on that note of due process, some of the more high profile cases over the last 11 months or so, I'm thinking of Mahmoud Khalil and Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Their lawyers had tremendous difficulty accessing them to go through the normal legal process to, get some sort of resolution. Uh, did Sarah have any difficulty accessing legal counsel?
Um, During those moves, we would try to arrange legal counsel, but then she would be moved again. So legal counsel would be arranged in the location that she would show up in. We didn't know where she was going, right? So she would just disappear out of the locator and then reappear at a later time someplace else, at another detention center, and at one point a county jail. Um, and so we were able to get a lawyer in to see her, and we were able to get a lawyer in to see her to ask initial questions when she was here in Delaney Hall the day before they moved her, or 2 days before they moved her, and then we were able to get a lawyer in to see her in in Michigan where she was, and
Michigan.
Oh,
is where
Michigan.
she ended up. Yeah,
Wow.
she went to three different states. If we count Jersey, where she started, she was in four different states in 4 days.
Wow.
My God.
Now, if I don't know if you can answer this or not, but many people who are being detained, are they immediately leaving the country or are they holding them until they're till they
Like,
fi-
what happens exactly? Because there's so much that's kind of shrouded in mystery and, deliberate obfuscation on the part of the administration. So, what was your insights into what exactly happens based on this experience?
I think my understanding is they're often um, very forcefully told that they should probably self-deport, right? And that they should just choose to go home. Um, and many do after months in detention. Um, so because the process, if you don't receive bond, then you will not get bonded out until your case is heard, which we know can be, if you're in detention 1 to 2 years, would be lucky.
And we know that this administration, who has received a tremendous amount of money for ICE, really didn't put a lot of that money into the court systems to help with the asylum process. I know that a lot of that funding didn't go for that. It went more towards enforcement, like ICE hiring
Yes.
people.
And since the new administration has come in, um, uh, uh, the granting rate of asylum cases has drastically decreased. So the number of asylum cases that are granted is significantly down. Um, denials have risen by some references are saying that denials have risen by 75 to 80%.
Wow, wow. Are they targeting certain areas of the world, or is it just seven,
I mean, there was an article today about a military judge who was a military lawyer who was placed in to be. They're placing some military judges in to be asylum judges, and he was removed, and it's reported he's removed because his granting rate was 60%.
oh, so he was too lenient.
He
But
was
he
too
So,
lenient.
Well,
Yes,
he
he was too
didn't.
lenient.
Well, because, well, based on what it sounds like that they just sort of want a kangaroo court system where basically it looks like there's a process and it looks like each side is being heard. But, if you don't come to the determination or the decision that they want you to, then you're gone, which is just a real, dog and pony show and nothing really of any kind of substance. I wanted to ask this question earlier, and then we'll get back to Sarah. So, in your efforts around Sarah and just your aid to migrants, what has been the response of faith leaders? I noticed recently this week, Pope Leo replaced Cardinal Dolan
yeah.
here in New York with somebody who was much more favorable and more compassionate towards migrants, and Pope Leo himself has been very outspoken
And
about
also
treatment
the
of
bishop
migrants.
in Palm Beach as well.
Yeah.
The
And
new
so
bishop.
what has been I know the Episcopal Diocese has been out there and doing this for some time, but what about the faith community more broadly? What has been the response there that you've seen?
I've seen, people of all different faiths that are coming together and to work on how to support our migrant neighbors and how to advocate, not just support in financial ways, but to advocate for the just treatment of our newest neighbors. So there's
I know
definitely a growing sense, right, of urgency and of importance in this work across lots of different faiths.
Do you find uh do you find that more people from outside the immigrant community stepping up because they really, like people like me, who really are not in jeopardy of being picked up? Um, do you find that this seems to be the community that is tending to step up? Because I have friends, um, black and brown friends, who not even traveling, like, and they're not immigrants. They're kind of reluctant to kind of move about the country, um, because they're afraid of just getting picked up.
Yeah, the reality is that any black or brown person is more at risk of being picked up, right, and being detained even just shortly before being released, right. And so I think that the role of um, I kind of laugh. A lot of our protests are filled with white-haired grandmothers out on the front
Yes.
lines, um, because they are the least at risk, and the people with the most privilege to be able to do this. As your skin color darkens, your privilege decreases. And our white grandmothers and grandfathers that are out here on the front lines and standing between the rest of the protesters and the police are the ones that are the ones that are the face of this movement right now in lots of ways.
I find myself, I grabbed a stack of cards from the Know Your Rights training, and I find myself like quietly handing out cards to like people in my neighborhood, stores that I walk into, just kind of like I just give them the card and say, if you have any questions, the good place to contact. And just they go, okay, thank you. And they grab it. What they do with it, I don't, but that's kind of how I'm, you know, outreaching to people in my community. And I find out of this subject matter of people being detained and picked up without due process bothers me more than anything else that's happening in this country right now. It's just not humane. It's just not who we are. And I I blame not just I blame past administrations because if we had a pathway to citizenship, um, people were not. I found that a pathway to citizenship meant like you were kind of giving in. And it's like, no, like you needed some sort of structure and order for people. Of course, you don't want, borders to run amok. Nobody does, but you don't want this. And I found that we have not been good on immigration for a very long time. And now we have this at our doorstep, which
Well,
is worse.
you said earlier, Nancy, that a lot of people, especially on Staten Island, and I've heard this as well, that oh well, they didn't, as long as they come in the right way. Well, for much of our history as a country, there hasn't been a right way.
Right way.
It's just even if you think about and when they say the right way, they're very likely referring to Ellis Island. Even then, people were, even if they were found to be sick or whatever, they would say, oh, okay, we'll keep you for a day. We'll see if you get worse. And then if you don't, you're off the boat. And off the boat you go. And so there's really not been a right way or a pathway that's coherent over time. And so I think just having a policy that is humane and orderly, but also, gives people their rights and gives and adequately prepares legal systems, states and localities for any kind of migrant situation, I think would be more helpful. What do you say about that, Father?
Our system has been broken for years. And there was no, there's never been a right way. So many of so many of my ancestors came in ways that weren't the right way, right? And the system that we have right now is very antiquated. It's very cumbersome. It's out of date. We have it can take years and years and years for the asylum cases to be seen. And that's because we don't have enough judges. We don't have a system that's set up to actually process these things. So right now, the administration is moving to expedited case hearing and removal for certain groups of people, but that's a rush system that's not actually giving due process. We need a system that actually gives due process and actually gives people the access to navigate our laws appropriately and in a timely manner that also is humane. Um, and allows people to have dignity. Um, we have a system that hasn't been working for multiple administrations. This is not a new break in a system. This is the response that we're seeing is
Yeah, well, what's
just adding
new?
to an already broken system.
Yeah, well, what's new about this is that the cruelty is just so out front. It is just
Mhm.
so blatant. It's so overt. And I'm just thinking back to, the stuff this year is bad is terrible. Like I'm thinking about Alligator Alcatraz and all these other places, and those places are meant to be, at least if you're part of the administration or among their supporters, uh, that's supposed to be a flex of some sort. But I also think back to the first administration where we were separating parents from children, and children were sleeping on the floor in tinfoil blankets in these random sites. And what did Sarah say, if anything, about the physical conditions? I know you mentioned she was in multiple different sites in multiple different states, but what did she say about like the physical conditions she was in?
Um, the I think that her worst experience was the county jail, where she was placed in a jail with um, the regular population. And so I mean that was her worst experience. But
Criminals,
um,
yeah.
yeah, so I mean she was placed in in a jail with regular criminals or people in accused of crimes. So the reports have been at multiple facilities that it's not humane. It's not even meeting basic requirements of access to restrooms and um,
Right, it's on par with like being in a criminal institution. So,
even worse. I mean,
well,
The New York Times ran a video series of some interviews that they had done, and I mean, sleeping in freezing rooms with um, not adequate heat and lights on 24 hours a day, and I mean, there's those reports are across multiple facilities, and many of these facilities are run by private companies.
So it's
Um,
like a gulag, and it's a gulag, and then there are big companies now that are profiting off of it.
yeah, I mean,
yes.
they're the commercial the commercial companies that are running these are, yes, profiting off of detention centers.
I've looked into you know, moving overseas, not recently, but it's kind of like something I've been thinking about for years. I've been going back and forth to Ireland. I love Ireland. I'm not Irish and I don't have ancestry, but I was always looking into like, if I wanted to live there, like what I would have to do if I wanted to live there. And every country has its qualifications. And, um, and at times, just like here, they kind of open up the gates. I know the Irish have opened up the gates more, and then now there seems to be a little bit of a backlash. I know with in Portugal, for Americans, the visa process was very good, and so what you had was this huge flux of Americans coming into Portugal, and now what you're starting to see in Portugal is they're starting to now make har you know, larger restrictions, just to kind of close the gap. So that's going throughout the world. But they have things in place, clear things in place, and they're humane and, you know, um, you're not trapped. And so for the US, it, I kind of task it to like our mental illness problem. Like it's something that we've always had, but we don't address it. We don't, and with immigration, we've been a nation of immigrants. This is not something new for us. We've been coming here. We've been coming here since we've been here. So, uh, but there's at different stages in U.S. history, um, we've we've welcomed and then we've closed the gates. And it seems with this administration, if you come from a certain area, which is nothing new, there have been, in history, we've had quota systems where certain areas were favored more than others.
Well, yeah,
But
and other areas named by other areas, basically other parts of the world identified by name, the Chinese Exclusion Act, uh, certain places like that. And so, yeah, and so we've had nativist movements and backlashes to immigration for as long as we've been around. And so uh, I think that's part of the reason why it's so difficult to deal with is just because the politics of it have become so toxic. The politics of it have become so mired in mistruths and misinformation. I'm sure, I don't know for sure, I was following this last year, or 2 years ago, I was following more closely the shelter at St. John's Villa, what was happening there. But I'm sure the New York Post was part of the group of people that were, inflating the sense of apocalypse and doom at the prospect of your church housing a shelter. Are we wrong about that?
No, I mean, it's it was amazing. I last year I had gone down to the shelter in Manhattan and at the Rosewood Hotel, and helped pass out backpacks at the beginning of the school year for the kids that were there. Um, and just an amazingly wonderful experience with very wonderful and grateful people. Um, and around that same time, I had a friend from Montana who was visiting New York, and he texted me and said, it's all over the news. Like the migrants are running over New York, but I don't see it anywhere. And I was like, yeah, you don't. Because it's not true, right? They're not.
Yeah.
There isn't this crime wave all through Manhattan of people being mugged. Yeah, like it's not the reality of what it is, and and that's the fear mongering that happens in a lot of our political world right now. And the if it's an asylum shelter, it's going to be a bunch of unvetted criminals that are just going to be raping and stealing, and it's just going to be awful, right? And it doesn't even give room to have conversations about what processes are in place and how those shelters run and what like none of that. It's just they're an immigrant and they're scary.
Well, also too, if in poverty, if you don't help people who are in need, eventually their last resort is going to be, what survival. And so when they take away certain um, necessities for people that, so for example, here in New York, when they were shipping people from Texas to New York, I mean, the the mayor had only one choice. He had to put people somewhere. They were coming off of a bus. Are you, people sleeping on the side of the Roosevelt Hotel, um, they need a place to go. Otherwise they're going to sleep on the side on the street. Where else are they going to go? Um, it's just kind of very simple as that. Um, I think where I'm trying to get here is what should we be doing as Americans in regards to this? Like, do you putting pressure on our Congress? I mean, I'm assuming this is a congressional issue. Um, do we put pressure on our state um, people as well? Like, is this something that is also um, state governments also need to pay attention to? Uh, our local government, our city councils? Do we put pressure on them? Do we become more active and be at more out rallies? Do we donate? What do you say?
It's a multi faceted, there's multiple ways we have to do this. And the city government just passed a new city ordinance about immigration. We're passing laws at our state to protect our migrant neighbors, right? So it's every level of the government that matters. Our city council people matter. They matter in how our law enforcement engages and supports or does not support or does not engage with ICE activities. It matters in lots of ways. Our local governments control a lot of our resources, are able to help our food pantries, which help people who are unable to work because they don't have a work permit. We bring people in, but we won't give them a work permit.
Yeah,
When 99% of them they want to go to work. Give them a work permit so that they can work and help to support themselves. They want to be
that's a state
self-sufficient.
level. Is that a
That's a
state level?
federal level. That's
That's
a
a federal
federal
level.
level. Work permits are federal level. Um, but every level of our government matters and can be and the city council puts pressure on the state and the state puts pressure on the federal government, right? I mean, the more movement and the more vocal we are about how we should hold our government accountable, which is not controlling us. We are supposed to be controlling the government. We are the ones that are to elect people and they are to work for us. And I think that we've gotten things out of whack a little bit and they don't think they work for us anymore. And so we need to be active about that. And um, we need to be talking about what the issues are that matter to us. And we need to be writing them and we need to be calling their offices, donating to help food pantries and clothes shelters and our human, our service agencies across our states and our cities that help our new neighbors, right? Because there isn't any other help for them. So often they're turning to nonprofits that need to be able to help. Those are ways that we support. getting out and standing on the street corner, and being a part of a community organization that shares a voice that says we we want our government to reflect the way that we believe we should treat our neighbors that live next door to us in our house.
Yeah,
There isn't a difference. There's not a difference between the way I treat my neighbors in my church or the ones that live next door to me as the way I should treat any of my neighbors, because everyone that resides in our country is my neighbor. And we've lost that. We've lost that. And as a government, we've lost that. And we need to demand that that is part of who we are, and that
yeah,
that does guide our laws and our rules.
absolutely. Do you have a food pantry at
Yes, we have a food pantry twice a month.
twice a month? And how do
Mhm.
people donate?
They donate by making cash donations. They donate by bringing food by and dropping it off. And so that's how they donate to us.
Do you have donation hours or is it
No, they can call and they can call our office and we'll coordinate donations. So
Well,
okay? So,
speaking of your food pantry, at my church, I go to an Episcopal church now, and so um, we actually had we were, semi-expecting ICE to show. They never did, thankfully, because we've heard that food pantries are being targeted for these sorts of, Gestapo-like raids. And have you had any encounters at all at your church with ICE,
I
apart?
have not. There have been locations on Staten Island that have
yeah.
had ICE come to their food pantries. And so our our pantry has not encountered that. We have our procedures on what our diocese has procedures on how to handle that, and we have our people trained on how to engage if if they come and request access to the church.
And
Very good.
they need a judicial warrant, correct?
Correct. Eventually, they need a judicial warrant that's signed with the address of the person that they're looking for, and the person's name.
And so they don't have to, and they can't, um, they, they don't have the right to enter your building.
No.
No. So I learned that in ICE training too. I went to the Know Your Rights in regards to just, just to know what am I capable of. I found out that you have a lot more protection in your own home as opposed to someone who is outside, um, driving in their car. There's a lot less, so I've learned that. And we can, we do what we can. And I thank you for coming on here and talking about this issue. It's horrible. And thank you for helping out, and thanks to the church for stepping up and helping people that need legal matters. Are there legal organizations that you might want to give a shout out to that might need assistance with anything like Spanish speakers or more lawyers, volunteers?
There's a couple of organizations on Staten Island that are kind of getting started, right? And I can give you a name after.
Okay. All
I have
right.
to ask first before I
All right.
share.
That's sure enough. And then if that's okay, then we'll put it in our show notes.
Yeah,
So,
Sure.
we usually, and we ask because we put anything that we talk about that people can directly contribute to, we want to make it known and so make it accessible to people.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, the show up and shop in our neighborhoods that are heavily Hispanic, right? They're suffering. And show up in those neighborhoods.
we had
Um,
a something this
Shop and eat.
weekend in
Correct.
Port Richmond. And what's interesting when we talk about Port Richmond, my family, my mother's side came from Norway, the country that Donald Trump wants people to come from. But but
Gee,
we
I wonder
Norwegian,
why that country. I wonder why that country and Sweden too. What do those countries all have in common? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
funny when you interview them, they're like, they just, no, we're not coming over. But what I was saying is that when my family came here, they landed in Port Richmond. It's always been an immigrant community, and so this weekend they were shopping on Port Richmond. But then there's also other local avenues as well that have a lot of mom and pop shops, like New Dorp Lane and Forest
Victory
Avenue.
Boulevard, Forest Avenue. There's lots of places that you can go and shop and choose your local shop and choose your immigrant shop.
I did not buy anything from Amazon this year for Christmas, so everything is local, and I'm going to keep
Nice.
it that way. Yes, and continue to shop in Port Richmond. I and if you didn't go last weekend, go next weekend. Get your this weekend. You got last minute Christmas shops. Go there and or go food shopping. Go eat in some of the restaurants because the people actually are. Some people not hesitant to go out. So that's probably also hurting a lot of because a lot of people that do shop in Port Richmond are immigrants, and if they're hesitant to come out, then the businesses aren't doing well.
The businesses are going to suffer because our traffic is down, right? Because people are just being more cautious and they're not able to do it. And so us with privilege, us with the us
Yeah,
us white privileged people need to go out and go shopping and spend our money in the places that need our support and go
absolutely.
get food. That's one of the benefits we have, right? And we should be using these privileges to help those who are not.
Very
And
good.
well, and finally, I just want to end on this note. So, where do things currently stand with Sarah? I know she was released and released on bond, and there's still other parts of the process, like regular check-ins, I assume, and ultimately, if this is a known part of the process, like when does I guess an ultimate, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but like when is there a decision about whether she can remain in the country or not?
Immigration process is a very long process. So I mean the chances are it could be years before a final solution, before a final answer is arrived at it. But you don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But right
But as
now,
long as she has bond, she's safe. As long as she's out on bond, she's good. And that bond will last till her hearing, or
yeah, it should last
probably.
until a decision is made in her case. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
if she's able to be with her family,
Mhm.
and she's one of the lucky few to
Yeah.
to get a habeas and get a bond and get released is
Well,
Can
how
you
is
just
a
explain what a
gigantic
habeas is?
experience.
Can you
Sure.
explain what a habeas is for those who don't know?
So the habeas is a petition that was filed, and it's filed not within the immigration court. It's filed in the local court. So it's filed. It was filed in a Jersey court, basically saying that her detention was, unlawful, and so she was bonded out from that, from receiving the habeas petition from the local judge. Um,
Okay.
but we have to have lawyers that are practicing within the jurisdiction that it is to do the habeas. We have to have, immigration lawyers who are admitted to the immigration court. It's significant. It is significant challenges to try to navigate assisting.
Very
and
good.
well, how is she feeling about it? Is she optimistic? Is she, not really wanting to engage too much with it as to not want to jinx it? Like, how's she feeling about it?
She's an optimistic young lady, and she rightfully so believes that she will be a wonderful asset to America. And So she is keeping um, that belief and that hope within inside of herself as she navigates this forward.
I'm praying.
Yeah,
I'm
we hope.
praying and keeping my
Yeah.
hand and supporting her, and we will do our best to keep the information alive and out there so more and more people can come to this cause and help
Yeah.
any way that they can.
Absolutely. And we're definitely going to keep monitoring the story. And if there are any future updates and you all want to come on and share those with our listeners, we're happy to have you and to, tell that story further. But on that note, this is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
And I'm Nancy Richards, and we want to thank Father Hank from St. John's Episcopal Church for coming here today and talking with us about this crucial issue.
Thank you very much.